Wendy here with It's Bright to Paint. I just wanted to paint this mushroom toadstool with you today. So that is what we're going to be doing. I have available for you digital downloads if you would like to print those off. That does come at a cost from my store, unless you are on my subscriber list, and then there is usually a free period where I do a flash sale and allow you to download my digital tracers and reference material for free. That you do have to subscribe for, but if you do subscribe and I send out a notification to let you know that those are available, you can actually go right online right away and download them, and then you don't ever have to pay for them. So if you missed that flash sale for this particular painting, just make sure you subscribe so you don't miss those in the future. There's also links to all of the materials that I used. Feel free to use whatever materials you have on hand. You can use different colors. You can do whatever you want. You are the artist. So I hope that you will have fun painting with me today, and I hope you'll come back and paint with me in the future. Make sure you subscribe below. Make sure you also follow me on Facebook, and then subscribe to my store so you can get my newsletter. I don't send out too many emails, but I will let you know when I have something coming available that you'll be able to download for free, so you can take advantage of those opportunities to get something real cheap or for free. So I thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the process, and I hope you have a great, beautiful painting at the end. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I wanted to show you how to mix this. What I did was I took this acrylic festive green that I had in the recommended paint kit, and then the red, which is the primary red, and I just put them. And if you don't have one of these, you can use your paintbrush, but you're going to want to use a different brush than what you're planning to paint with. And it can ruin your brush if you let it get up inside of here, so try not to do that, or you'll ruin your paintbrushes. And these brushes are actually good brushes if you got the Princeton ones, so I don't recommend ruining them. So if you just put some paint onto your tray, and then you're going to just take some red, which I already have some here, so I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that red. I'm going to mix it in. So I'm trying to get rid of the brightness of that green, because I want a little bit darker. So this is where you're mixing in the colors on the opposite side of the spectrum. We're not mixing Christmas today, but kind of similar. So we're just gonna mix those together until it looks about right. I wouldn't put a lot of red in there, because then you might have some red hues showing through that you don't want. You're gonna wanna make sure you get that mixed up really good so you don't end up with red streaks anywhere. So that's how we're gonna make the paint color that we'll use for the entire background. And then we'll also add a little bit of black in a little bit to make it a little bit darker on the edges, which will be really fun. So I'm going to go ahead and use that mixture that I just put together here, and I'm going to just start painting. Hopefully you have your water that you need, as well as your paper towels that you're going to need ready to go. And then hopefully you have all the appropriate paint colors. And if not, you can definitely choose to make your own or be creative and do however you want. This is going to be a little bit streaky at first. We're going to have a second coat that we're going to go over so that it doesn't look so streaky once we get this layer on here. We got some people jumping into the Facebook Live. Hi, Marissa. kind of the key element here is that you're going to want to mix enough together so that you actually have enough to paint the entire background, because if you don't, getting the same color again is difficult. That is the entire challenge that you have with mixing colors. That is how new painters usually are very challenged to mix colors, because they don't mix enough and then they can't ever get the same colors again. That was one of my biggest struggles as I started painting, because I'm not sure if everyone knows this about me, but I didn't actually start painting until I was already in my 40s. So I've only been painting for a short period of time, about 5 years. Yes, I know I'm dating myself, but it's okay if you know how old I am. I'm not ashamed. So yeah, that's how I got started, actually watching a tutorial. And so as a result, I didn't think my entire life that I was creative at all. I didn't have any kind of creative energy. I just really didn't have any idea that I was capable of doing fun painting things. I thought that, that was for people who were artsy, and I wasn't artsy, I wasn't creative. And then I tried, and I learned that, when you try things, you can actually do them. It's not really a talent. It's not really an energy that you are born with. It's something you develop. So even the creative side of it, people say, oh, I'm not creative, and I hesitate to believe them, because that's not actually true. You might not be creative in your mind, but the more you start creating and the more you work on creating, the more you actually find that your brain starts thinking that way. It's kind of the same with anything. The more you start trying to do things, the easier they become, and the more thought processes enter your brain about things. Like, I literally did not have any concept that I was able to come up with my own designs. I thought, oh, I'm just painting what other people paint because that's cool. Before I was trying to make money with it. So funny that I just really didn't think I was talented. And then I started kind of thinking about things differently. And I started actually coming up with ideas in my head about what I wanted to paint. And then I started painting music, and what I see when I hear music. And I just realized that all of this energy flow had started out of me just actually applying myself and working at painting, and then the creativity just came. So it was kind of fun to go through that whole transition and watch it unfold. Oh, I got a paint booger. Sometimes that happens. You just gotta touch your painting and get the paint booger out of there if your paint starts to dry up a little bit. I'm not going to worry about the brush strokes too much now, because we have to wait for that to dry a little bit before we can go back and actually fix those brush strokes. But don't forget to paint the sides of your canvas. If you're using a canvas that has sides, I oftentimes paint with flat canvas, so I don't have that, but I didn't today. So make sure you paint the sides of it, because coming back with those mixed colors later is probably going to be difficult. If you feel more comfortable around these smaller areas, you can definitely pick up one of your smaller brushes. I'm not worried about it, because I know that I can fix them if I get a little bit wild with the green paint, because we're going to initially paint them brown and white, which will offset the colors anyway, so it will paint right over this green color. I'm not worried about it showing through once we get that far. So the red is a little bit more transparent though. So if you paint the areas that are going to be red on the mushroom, that is a little bit more difficult to cover up with the red color. So we'll have to go over that white any area before you actually paint it red. Otherwise, it will just look dark in that area. And once again, don't worry too much about the brush stroke. We'll go back over those areas once it dries. Yeah, I got some sloppiness over here on my this little mushroom on the right, so I'm gonna have to fix that. But that's okay, because we can fix it. I'll show you how. And I'm just checking the sides of my canvas to make sure that I got all the sides. I know I didn't get the top. If I touch it, I'm gonna turn it around and paint the top. Hi, Sarah. Okay, so some of those areas that are starting to dry up a little bit, you can start to coat over those. You can actually see where some of them have dried. So I'm just going to put a little bit more paint where those have dried, kind of touch up some of that brush stroke. Okay, not yet. It's not going to let me paint over it quite yet here. So what I'm going to do for now, I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up the red, or actually put some more red out for myself here on my plate. And I'm going to paint the mushroom top so it has time to dry. I'm going to use that same brush. However, if you feel more comfortable, you can use one of the smaller brushes to paint the top of the mushroom. I'm going to go for it and use the bigger one. Try not to stick your arm in your paint. Some of you may choose to use the easel. I find that it's easier not to, but I'm probably not teaching you the appropriate way. They would tell you that there's actually a distortion that happens if you're painting a professional or what I would call fine art. This is kind of fun art versus fine art. But if you're teaching as a professional and you wanted your paintings to be more professional, the distortion is actually happens when you lay down a painting. So it's better if you actually have it upright on a easel, and that's how easels actually come into play. The picture isn't distorted in a way. So that's the main reason why people use easels. So however, because we already have the picture drawn out for you, if you used the the downloads to do so, you don't have to worry about distortion because it's already drawn out. And we're not doing fine art, we're doing fun art. You can't fit fine art into the class time that we have available. Usually the difference between a painting that's absolutely amazing and detailed and one that is just fun is time. So I could actually change this painting up and put 4 hours worth of details into it versus 2 hours worth of details into it, and it would look completely different. All right, I'm gonna use my smaller brush to get into some of those littler detailed spots. But we got the first layer of red onto our mushroom. Okay, I'm actually going to use this brush, which is a number 4 flat. Look at that, I have paint all over my fingers already. So I'm going to use this brush. I'm actually going to use it for the smaller mushrooms also, for the head of those, so that we can get those in. But you can see that I really messed up around here. So I want to show you how to fix it if you messed up like I did on either of your smaller mushrooms. We're just going to take some white. So I'm going to put some white out here. Don't forget to shake your paints up well. I'm going to go ahead and just fix this by putting this shape back together. It's a little bit off now. All right, now I want to wait a little bit before I actually paint over this with red because it will change to pink, and I don't want pink mushrooms. And this is just a little bit over here that I need to fix also. All right, while I'm waiting on that, I am going to take the smaller brush and go in and make some updates to this area just to get those finite details in there. Without the larger brush, it gives you a little bit more control. There we go. All right, and then while we're waiting for some of those other areas to dry, I'm going to go ahead and mix up the colors that I'm going to use for the stem. You can see I used a lot of my tray putting together all the colors of green for you, so I'm going to set that aside for now. And I'm going to use my white and brown and yellow so that we're mixing primary colors. Again, I'm going to use all of those colors to create the color that I want for the stem. So I'm going to start with the brown. Hopefully you can see my tray here. And I'm going to wipe this off. If you, like I had mentioned earlier, if you weren't on yet, if you don't have a paint, words aren't working. If you don't have one of these, then you can use your paintbrush. However, if you're using more expensive paintbrushes, you're going to want to make sure that you don't get the paint down into here because it will ruin your paintbrushes. So try to keep it just around the tip if you're going to be mixing with your paintbrush, and then before you use that paintbrush, after you've mixed with it, then you're going to need to clean it off. So that is my recommendation. So we're going to go ahead and start with the brown. I'm going to put some brown out on my tray. Probably more brown than anything. Keep in mind we need to make sure we mix the appropriate amount to be able to actually paint the entire stem. So don't be wimpy with your amounts because it's hard to get the same color again if you are. So then we're going to add some white in with that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is add some yellow in with that. You don't need a lot of yellow, but you will need some. Okay, so I'm going to just mix these colors together until I'm happy with the hue. So I'm going to start with the white because that actually, I can tell easier how well the colors are mixing in. So I'm going to just take a little bit of brown and stick it into my white. And I've got a light brown color. I'm going to make sure I get that mixed in real well. And then I'm going to take just a little tiny hint of yellow and add that in there to make like a ochre color. It wasn't quite enough, so I added a little bit more. All right, that kind of looks like a mushroom stem, I would say. Gotta make sure it's all mixed in really well so it doesn't get streaky when I use it. All right, so now let's go ahead and use our round brush, or you can actually use any of the brushes, whichever ones you feel most comfortable with. Go right ahead. It doesn't really matter for this part. So I'm going to go ahead and use my round brush, and I'm going to start painting that mushroom stem. And you can see that I'm going to actually make this part a little bit darker so that it stands out, and just by adding in a little bit more brown. So this is our base color, and we're going to continue to add to it to make the different hues of the lighter and darker together to make it look more round. It's great to see people hopping on. Thank you very much for watching. All right. Okay, so we got the base layer of the mushroom there, and then I'm going to go ahead and just color underneath here as well with that base layer. All right, and then as it gets a little bit closer to where I already painted the stem of the mushroom, I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap so that I can tell where the lines are and make it a little bit darker back there using by adding in some brown when I'm ready to do that. So just that's why I'm not getting all the way directly to the stem with this color, because I want to make sure that I don't blend them together. I want to keep the layers out there. All right. Dog hair. I have a German Shepherd and he gets onto my paintings almost every time. So if you have an original painting of mine, you can almost certainly find where my dog has graced your painting with his presence. And it doesn't matter how clean you keep your house. It just is a thing. If it makes you feel more comfortable, you can pick up one of the smaller brushes for these little stems of the other baby mushrooms. All right, and then I took and put that paintbrush that I was using into my water, and I'm gonna leave it over there for a little bit. I'm gonna pick up a different brush now, and I'm actually going to use that same color that we just made and add a little bit of brown to it. So it's not super dark, but it's a little bit more of a brown hue, and then I'm gonna go around these sides to give it the dimension that you need here. Make it look like it's darker right around the sides of the stem. So you can, I'm not sure if you can actually tell that from the lighting. It's hard for me to see on the live here. There you go. That maybe now you can see it a little bit better. So just kind of making it a little bit darker in that area. Blending it in there. Then I'm going to use some of that same technique and actually color in this entire area to make it a little darker as well. All right. And that kind of blends a little bit more than I want, so I'm going to add just a little bit more brown into it. All right, so there we have it. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm going to go ahead and put the streaks in there. You're going to want to use one of your thinner brushes to make sure that your lines are super thin, and you don't want to press very hard, so we can get some good lines that make it look like the texturized bottom of the mushroom. So I'm just going to add use that same brown color and go straight up from here with a very light line. I'm pressing very, very lightly to just make it very light across there. Do that all the way around the top of the mushroom. See what I mean by the colors are hard to keep consistent? So I'm adding a little bit of brown and white together to try to keep that same color. There are no rules. You can twist your painting however you want to make it more comfortable. Whoops, got that one a little close. That's okay. It's a mushroom. It's nature. It's definitely not perfect, right? Okay. Then I got a little bit wacky up here, so I'm going to cover that up like that. There we go. Okay, so now for down through in here, I'm actually going to add a little bit more texture, and then I'm going to add a little bit of brown up underneath here, so it looks more like there's a kind of a shadow or a lip where the red, the edge meets, so it's kind of darker underneath here. Whoops. That's what you do when you have too much paint on your brush. but it's fixable. See, I just picked up a little bit more light color and blended it right in. So if you're having some of that same struggle, there you go. There's your answer. Okay. All right, now I'm going to kind of do the same on the back side as well, just add in a little bit more brown around the edge here. All right. That just kind of gives it a little bit of texture. We're going to do the same thing on the mushroom stem. We're going to just add in some color along the right hand side to make it look more darker through here, but I want to keep a lighter part on the edge, and I'm actually going to go over it with a lighter color. So it's going to look like a shadow, but it will look more round if you keep it light on this very edge. So we're going to add in that shadow here. If it's not blending in real good, you can pick up some of that lighter color again and blend it in. You can also add water. That's always a secret to getting blending to work out better for you. And then I'm actually going to put some more white on my plate. And I'm going to add in white to get that, to make it a little bit lighter on the outskirts here. That helps me cover up some of that green where I overlapped. I'm going to do the same, use that same light color on the other side. And kind of some streaks throughout to kind of give it that lighter look on the right hand side, as if the sun is coming from the right. And then blend it together by picking up just a little bit darker. There, making it look just a little bit more like it's round. Up around the top, I do kind of want it to be a little bit darker so it looks like it's a shadow up here. And then the light will hit it as it comes down, because the stem is actually hidden by some of the top of the mushroom, is the way I'm thinking about it. So then add in just a little bit darker color there. And then lighten it up as it gets lower down here. There we go. I'm not really worried about the base down here because we're actually going to be using or covering it up with some different flowers and things like that. So trying to make it look as round as possible up here. Maybe a couple of light streaks throughout. And if you can't see it, if you step back from it a little bit, it's easier to see how the roundness is working out for you. So if you're feeling like you can't see it, then step back a little bit and see if that works to make it stand out to you. I'm going to do just a little bit more light over here where I had some gaps between my green and there was like a really white area, so just fixing that up a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same blending on my little baby mushrooms. Whoops, way too much brown on that one. That's easy to fix, just add in some light color there. All right. And just a little bit more light colored all the way through here. So it looks like a highlight. There. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and rinse that brush off. We're gonna go back now and fix that green that we did earlier. So we're gonna come back to our green tray. Hopefully you have some green still available. And I'm going to do a couple of different things. I want to make it a little bit lighter around the mushroom. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with the large brush again. I'm going to use some of that green paint that I created earlier, and I'm actually going to add just a tiny bit of white to it. So it kind of gives me a whiter look, and I'm going to paint right around the mushroom, just a tiny bit of white. I didn't do very much at all, to try to make it look kind of like the mushroom is glowing a little bit. Whoops, and there's another dog hair. There we go. Now you're going to want to be careful not to get paint on your mushroom. Kind of blend that in without cleaning my brush. Carry that down here. You can see how those streaks that we have are going away now with the second coat. And once again, I'm not too worried about anything at the bottom because we are going to go over a lot of that with a black. Actually, I'm running out of green. And adding in a little bit of white. Whoops, that's too much. Don't do that much. All right. Hopefully you're not looking so streaky. All right, and then I need to make sure I get this little bit more up by the top of the mushroom here with that lighter color. I am definitely out of paint over here. Whoops. Okay, so now you'll have a little bit lighter color all the way around the top of your mushroom. Then we're going to go ahead and put some green, just the green. Take just a tiny bit of that red and mix it in with your green. I'm going to just do it with my paintbrush. Then I'm actually going to add some black to my plate and go around the edges with black to make it darker around the edges. Just a little bit. Black is a very, very, very bold color and it mixes very, very quickly. So you don't want to take too much because it will become very, very dark. So enough berries, you get the point. And then I'm actually going to rinse my brush because I just mixed paint with it. So I'm going to rinse my brush and then I'm going to go in and get paint on it. All right, so I'm going to just add in color from that initial hue, and I'm just going to add a little bit more black as I get up towards the edges. Very little, because a little goes a long way, but it just kind of gives us that texture, and it's kind of cool. And it gets rid of those streaks we have. Whoops, we need more dark. There is definitely a glare off my painting, making it very difficult for me to see what it looks like up there. Oh. Oops, see, I got too much black now. I'm going to need to blend that together. There we go. This is a nice dark, dark shade of green, almost black. I'm going to want to get some more green as I move down towards my mushroom here. And streak in just a little bit of that white to make it blend. I'm going to do the same on this side. Trying to make it darker up towards the top. And just blending it down. Alright, so it kind of looks like your mushroom's glowing a little bit. And it's darker in the background and it gets lighter as it goes down. I'm going to keep that same darkness going around the edges at the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing down there. Adding in a little bit more black. And the same with the other side. Don't forget the edges. All right, most of this area we're going to cover with some grass anyway, so I'm not worried about that. I am going to try to blend this a little better up here. And then the key to blending is if it's not blending as much as you want it to, you can add a little bit of water. And then don't glop water on your painting though. So you can add just a little bit of water. And then just go back in there with that. Try to make it blend in just a little better. There's going to be some flowers and stuff down in this area, so I'm just adding a little bit more to cover up some of those streaks. Oh. And I'm running out of green. Kind of looks like it's just glowing right down underneath the mushroom though, which is kind of what I was going for here. All right, and make sure we get around these little guys. You can use your smaller brush if it makes you feel more comfortable. And that pretty much takes care of the background. So I just wanted to take a look from a, yeah, it looks good. You can fiddle with that all day if you wanted to try to make the background look just precisely so, but that I'm happy with what we have right here. So I'm going to move on to the second layer of red on my big mushroom and then also on the smaller mushrooms. So I'm going to pull that brush out again. Whoops, don't drip water on your painting. That is another downfall of having it flat. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the second layer up here. so there's no brush stroke. And if you get little paint globs in there because the red is somewhat dry, you can just add some more red to your plate somewhere else. Or you can, well, you can wipe them off first of all, but get a little bit more fresh paint out in the event that it's kind of getting a little dry. I probably should do that. I didn't say it, but obviously you need to make sure that your paintbrush does not have any other colors on it when you're adding this red on here, because the green will not make a very nice mixture. It will turn your mushroom green. Dark, dark green. Okay. So it looks like I got rid of most of the brush stroke there. I'm going to go in and use a smaller paintbrush and paint my little mushrooms. Oh, even that one's a little bit big for this tiny guy. All right. So now we have the mushroom tops painted. And that background is drying just a little bit. So while that's drying, I'm actually going to go in and add a few white highlights underneath the bottom of my mushroom to look like they're getting some highlights as well. So I'm just going to take white and come through and just give a little extra texture. You can see I don't have very much paint on my brush at all. I'm just adding in some texture so it looks more realistic. And then we have to wait for those colors to dry so that we can put the white on the mushroom. So in the interim, what we're going to do is we're actually going to start painting some of the grass. So I am going to take my smallest brush, and I'm going to go in and add some green, just the regular green. So I'm using just this plain green. I'm just gonna start going and putting some grass streaks down here. We're gonna go in with some white because this is very bright, but I kind of like it anyways. We're gonna go in and just do some streaks, just like starting at the bottom and letting your paintbrush lightly go up the painting. So you're very, very light is how you're, and we're going to put some additional colors in here to make it a little bit lighter even. and just random different directions. And we're just doing the bottom of the painting for now. And keep in mind, it's not going to look realistic right now. We have to paint in layers. So we're actually creating the first layer here on the bottom. We're not expecting realistic looking grass right at this moment. It's whimsical anyway, but as realistic as you can get within a couple of hours of a painting time. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and let that dry for just a few minutes here. And I'm going to add a little bit of a mixture of some red into that. So I'm going to take just a little bit of the red and add it to that green. So I get a little bit darker color. I'm going to add some of that into there. Just a little tiny bit darker shade of green. Okay. So now we're going to let that dry. And in the meantime, we're going to paint some flowers. So let's go ahead and take, I'm going to show you a technique for painting these flowers to look like this. So we're going to make them look, oh, can't see that on here. Okay, we're going to make them look like these little guys. There's a specific technique that we can use to do that. Excuse me, thirsty. Okay, so we're going to use one of our round brushes. I have a size 12, but you can use anywhere from a 6 round all the way up to, there's 6, 8, 12. I've used all of them for the same painting. This is kind of a large one. Probably I wouldn't go any larger than a 12, but we're also going to use a very light green color. So we're going to mix together green, and we are going to add in white. I already have some white over here, so I'm just going to mix those two things together. So some of the green and with the white, and as you can see, I'm using my paintbrush to do that. And it's kind of like a mint color green, and it's just kind of pretty. As long as you don't have too much paint on your brush, you can go ahead and keep using that, because we do need a lot of paint for these little flowers that we're going to do. But I think it's pretty saturated. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and wipe it off and then just pick up fresh paint. so there's not too much on my brush. Doesn't glop everywhere. All right, and then with this technique, what I'm gonna do is just start with up. Yeah, this brush is a little big for this. But what I'm trying to do is get into the darker area and just go in a side-by-side motion. And yeah, it looks kind of funny right now, but we're gonna fix it with some deeper colors so it will look a little bit better. Yeah, this brush is a little big for this, but I'm going with it for now. We're just kind of doing a little bit on each side. Then we're gonna go back in with a darker color over the top to make it look a little bit better. And I'm gonna go all the way to the bottom here. Excuse me. My nose itches. All right, so there's one flower. I'm gonna do another one that's also very light right out on the outside of it. Just gonna pick up some more green and white. And then, yeah, I should use a smaller brush. Oh well, I'm in. All right, and then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And they're not gonna look perfect yet. We're gonna actually add some more texture to them. This is just the first layer. Excuse me. Oh, I have, my Mac isn't plugged all the way in. Hold on a second. I need to make sure my computer's charging. Aha. There we go. Whew, that would have been scary. My laptop wasn't all the way plugged in. Sorry, guys. I got it. We caught it in time. Okay. So then I'm going to go ahead and do some additional flowers. Same style here. I'm going to do another one going up right here. All right. And then if you have a smaller brush, what I'm going to do is do kind of the same thing, but with a little bit smaller brush so I get some smaller flowers. And I'm going to mix together some purple and do purple. I'm going to pull this tray back over because it's got a little bit more room. So we're going to use blue for the first time here. We're going to add some red into that and some white. You don't have to use purple if you're not comfortable putting these colors together. It's completely up to you. But I want to, so I'm going to add a lot of white in here because it's very, very dark. All right, so now see how that's turning purple, a lighter color purple, and it's so pretty. If you have purple, you don't have to mix these, but I am trying to get all my painters to start mixing their own colors because it actually adds a lot of value to your painting experience if you're able to do that, in my opinion. If not, I know a lot of people just go out and buy the pre-mixed colors, and that is absolutely okay. This is just what I prefer to teach. Okay, I'm going to use that. I'm actually using a number 10 round to do these little purple colors here. I'm just going to do the same thing right on the top of my mushroom. One going that way, another one going this way. And then I'm even gonna add one more small one right over here. I just like the way they look against the stem of the mushroom. And then they blend right into the grass. You can add some more in around here if you like. Might add just one more purple one over here. I feel like the happy little trees, you know, how about a little happy little flower over here, a little happy little flower over there. Bring it all the way down to your other flower so it looks like it blends in a little bit. Okay. And then we're going to while that's drying, we're actually going to go in and do the first layer of white on top of our mushrooms so we can actually see the little white areas. So one of the key things to making it look a little bit more rounded and realistic is that we need to add in a little bit of highlights into the red. So right now it is very, very red. In order to add in some highlights so that it looks like the sun's coming in on it, I'm actually going to do a little bit of areas of pink. So I'm going to do kind of right around this area. I'm going to add in some red with some white, which is going to be a lighter, much lighter red, almost pink. So it looks like there's a sun coming off of it a little bit. Kind of gives you the same value that you're getting here by adding that in. I'm just going to add it right around the bottom. Kind of looks like sun's coming, shining right on there. Gives a little bit extra value here. Then I'm going to do the same up here. So it's lighter over there, and then I'm going to do a little glint in the middle, maybe right about here. I'm using a very, very light touch and a very small amount of paint to just kind of make it look like it's the sun's glinting off of my mushroom. There we go. And probably just a little tiny bit over on the right hand side as well. Kind of like over here. All right, and the next thing we're gonna do is do all white dots. So we're just gonna go straight in with the all white dots. We're gonna have to have a couple different layers on these dots because the paint just isn't thick enough to go over that red very well. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like. And they don't have to be perfect, they're just kind of random. They're just kind of all over the place. So what I'm gonna do is just start with, so it looks like it's coming around the edge. You wanna make sure that you're keeping them on the flat parts too. So it looks like the other side, we're just not seeing the other side of this round-ish dot. And we're just gonna kind of keep that same random pattern throughout. They don't have to be round, they can be oblong, they can be anything you want to make them. You can have some that are bigger, some that are smaller. I'm going to do more closer to the top with some smaller ones down, maybe closer to the bottom edge, because that seems like it makes sense to me. And probably just a couple more here. And maybe one over here on the side. All right, that looks good to me. So we're gonna go ahead and repeat that process down here on their smaller mushrooms. And then also what I'm going to do is take that white color, add in a little bit of purple that I created. And I'm going to take that lighter color purple and then highlight my flowers. I continue to use that small round brush. Just giving some random texture to those flowers that we created. I'm going to do a little bit more on each one. You can see I'm not adding really any more paint. I don't need to. I just continue to use the same dipping and continue to paint on there. I'm going to do kind of the same thing with the green. On the darker ones, I'm going to go in with the white also. Just pretty much white. I think I just wiped paint on my face. That's okay. It's okay if I have some more paint on me, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add some of that texture also, just using the white to my lighter green flowers. And if there's some gaps, you can kind of fill in those gaps. You can also go in with a darker green as well, if you want to make them a little bit darker, because that's kind of fun. Whoops. You don't want a whole lot of paint on your brush because you're wanting to make it look pretty light here. And we're not trying to be perfect. We're just adding a little bit of texture in here, making it look kind of cool. And then I am going to use a little, or probably just this regular green without any texture to do this flower here. Just add in some dark to it to give it that same kind of texture. It's kind of fun. There. And then I'm going to keep using this technique, and I'm going to, well, I guess I'm going to add a little bit of green, this light green, and some white together, and continue with my grass. I don't want this brush though. I want my smaller brush again. So it was this one, this smaller brush that we were using. We're going to go ahead and add some white in with our green to get the texture of the grass. Just add some light colors in there. If it's not spreading real well, you can add a little bit of water to your brush, just don't add very much. And then you'll see that you can get a much finer grass look if you add a little bit of water. Just barely touching the painting with that white green mixture. Need to add a little bit more here. If you need to add some more water, you certainly can. I definitely do. Try not to drip water on your painting. Then we're going to go ahead and actually add in some flowers. And I'm going to use this green color again, just the regular green. I'm just going to add in a stem That's pretty light. So I'm just going to take it and go from here there's this one flower stem, and I'm going to put a little leaf here. I'm going to do another flower stem over here. Just a thin line. And then another couple leaves on there. And maybe one more that's coming up out of here. If your line isn't quite light enough, you can certainly go ahead and add a little bit, second little layer to it. Or isn't quite light enough, dark enough. I don't know what you actually call that in this instance. And then I'm going to come over here and do a few more stems on this side. And maybe one more coming from here. All right, now that I have those, I'm going to go ahead and choose my color. What color of flowers do I want to paint them? Well, maybe we'll just do some white flowers and then add in a little bit of purple. So I think I'm just gonna make some whimsical little flowers here. All right, and then I'm gonna go back and add a little bit of dark green to their stems. So I don't want too much because I don't want it to blend in with the background, but I do want at least some to make it a little bit more textured, I guess is the best word. So I'm going to just add in a little bit of this red into my green. That is a lot. There we go. I'm just going to take that color and add in just a little bit of texture to my stem. Still not quite as much as I wanted, but that's okay. Maybe I'll go and add a little bit of white to this as well to make it pop. There we go, I like that. Yeah, you can just go in and take a little bit of white and make it pop out. Okay, now I'm gonna take those white flowers. Whoops, I just kicked my camera here. Sorry about that. All right, I'm gonna take those white flowers, I'm gonna add in some purple to them. Not the whole thing, just add it. Whoops, make sure you don't have too much water on your brush. Add in some purple to just give them a little bit of prettiness and texture. These are very whimsical, so we're not spending a whole lot of time on this. Just making them look pretty. You can do that with whatever color you want. You can actually use the yellow, whatever color you want. All right, and then I think we're almost done. So, I originally put a black line around mine to outline it. I am not going to do that this time because I kind of like it not highlighted, or low lighted or outlined or however you want to call it. I just kind of like it the way that it is. You certainly can do that if you want, but I'm not going to this time. I am going to do the fun little dots, kind of like magic stars or whatever. We're not wanting to make it like snow, so I'm not going to add all of the sky as dots, but I am going to do the yellow and the white because I think that's kind of fun. You can do any other colors that you want as well, but I'm just going to use the end of my paintbrush, and then I'm just going to dip it in the paint, and I'm going to dot up the painting. So just kind of randomly wherever. Just kind of adds a little whimsical fun. Oops, I got a little bit of green in those. That's kind of fun. And then I'm going to add yellow because I really like the way that looks. I think that concludes our painting for today. We even got done 15 minutes early. So if there's something else that anybody's interested in, you can let me know either in the comments or you can let me know in the chat. I would be more than happy to add or give you some additional value for whatever you want to know while you get the chance. All right, well, I'm not hearing from anybody. I hope everybody had a wonderful time painting along with me. I hope you'll come back and paint with me again. I will be doing this. I probably am not going to do them on Saturdays. I know I mentioned this initially because it kind of conflicts with my schedule a little bit, but I will do them on Sundays and possibly adding a Thursday afternoon or evening as well. So please keep an eye out. I will make sure that there's always a Facebook event out there that gives you an opportunity to learn about when my live paintings are going to be. Also, if you are in an area where I do live events, I do have live in-person events as well, and those are on my Facebook page. So any events that are in your area, I'd be more than happy to have you come and join me for a physical in-person paint party. If you are interested, you can also go back over these white spots with some additional white to kind of color them in if they're a little bit opaque and you can see through them. But I really thank you all for coming and painting with me today. I had so much fun. Sandra, the next paint party at Elliott's is going to be sometime in the beginning of June. We haven't settled on a date yet, but I will definitely post when I find that out for sure. Thank you. All right, well, thank you so much, and I hope that you all had a wonderful time. Please come paint with me at Inspirate to Paint again. Have a good day.